Hello, this is what I hope is a very useful and important video about variety of errors that can happen when you are doing something with SQL. So first of all, currently I'm using the master database. And if I was, by mistake or otherwise, highlight a little bit of this code and it happens to be a correct syntax and click execute, the table will be created, but not in the AP database like it's supposed to if I run everything, but it will actually go in the current database such as master over here. And then you might want to delete it. So by itself, it's not a big problem. If you run the whole code, it's gonna recreate AP as it is supposed to, but you might want to go and declutter this. So I have some mess in here, I want to remove it. Now if you try to delete a random one, you might get unlucky because this database is related to another database. So before you try to delete, see if there are any dependencies. So load this dependency data. Is there any dependencies? Yep, there is. So now go into invoices. And by the way, you can remember the sequence because essentially we'll be deleting in the opposite sequence, in the opposite order. So again, view dependencies. In invoices, there is a dependency. Nope, there is none. So I should be good to delete this table. Delete. Okay. Doesn't have any connections. In case it did have any connections, that also is a sign that somehow you are using it right now, which is not good. But you would have to toggle that connection. So now just to double check, are there any connections? Nope. Now it's free to delete. So go ahead and delete it. And I'll delete the other two real quick. I think no longer makes any difference how you delete them. Alright, so I cleaned up tables a little bit. So model almost never gets switched on, but in case, for example, I will be switching to AP. By the way, how can you switch? One way to switch to AP is to run this code. Another way to switch to AP is to toggle here. So now I switch to AP. In case I was to open my creation script for class database and run some part of it, while the AP is on, the SP is connected, it's going to create a table, for example, in AP. Most likely it's going to be an error if it is like you highlight a random piece of code and try to execute it, it's going to be an error. Okay. Another way to create some errors is do something, a few things with this database and then try to recreate it or recreate parts of it. So just doing a few things here and there to run into that error. So this is me creating the logical schema of this database, that is the tables, columns, and their relations. It's gonna be a little bit of time for it to line up nicely, two isolated tables and some tables with relations. And maybe I want to write a random SQL query. Select all from, and the name of the table, I guess vendors. So this is basically selecting everything from vendors. Let's run it. So we ran something, and now I'm trying to If I'm trying for some reason to delete it, I would have to close existing connections. If I'm trying to rerun create AP table, I might run into trouble here. And you see it's trouble because the database is supposed to be really small and the query is going to run for a while before throwing the error at me. So I'm gonna pause the video and wait for the SQL server to be done. So we ended up with this massive error, and the main part is right here. Cannot drop database AP because it is currently in use. So database AP exists, and per this code, it's supposed to be dropped, but it is in use. There are some things created here, so let's close them. No. Close them. Oops, I did not mean to close that. Okay, open. Let's try. I'm almost sure that it will still not work if I try to rerun this code. Let's see. Yeah, so sometimes it's enough, and sometimes it's not. And when it's not, you might want to first drop database. Let me create the same error by a different, slightly different error maybe on the way. But you can do tasks, detach, not delete, but just detach it, drop existing connections, and say OK. So we dropped our connection to it, and then we can click on databases, attach, and attach that connection back. AP, that's what we want to attach. There should be 2 files here, and we're good. So it is attached, and this still runs. Okay. One more thing, if the database was detached, like this, detach, drop. Well, we can also update the statistics there. So it's dropped, and then I'm trying to execute. There may be an error saving. Now, cannot create file because it already exists, because it's already an existing file. So let me. So file path or whatever. So how do we do that? How do we actually get to the place where the databases are saved? You can look at another database actually and say look at properties, and the folder should be the same, or you can actually find that folder. So where are the files? The files are right here. So I'm copying it and let me copy paste this address, and here we are in the folder where my databases are stored. So the one that I got detached is right here. If I like to delete it, I can, and then recreate it using the same script again.